This is the challenge problem from last night's homework. Okay, so in the figure, GE, this line right here, bisects BC, so it makes BC into two equal parts, and GF bisects AB, so it makes AB into two equal parts. These two little tick marks, they mean two things that are congruent to one another. So GE is a horizontal line segment, and GF is a vertical segment. Okay, so the question is asking us to find the coordinates of points F and E. Okay, well, we know that GF bisects AB, right? So it turns AB into two equal parts. If this point right here separates AB into two equal parts, we know that F must be the midpoint. Remember, bisects, we use the midpoint formula. Bisects, we use the midpoint formula, okay? So I'm going to split my work into two parts here. I'm going to find the coordinate of point F and then the coordinate of point E, okay? All right, so I'm going to write out my formulas. I have x midpoint equals x endpoint plus x endpoint over 2. Y midpoint equals y endpoint plus y endpoint over 2. So the x midpoint is what we're looking for. We're looking for point F's coordinates, okay? So we're going to have x midpoint equals the two endpoints, two x endpoints, which are 2 plus 6 over 2. That gives us 8 divided by 2 is 4, so xm equals 4. Ym, we're looking for the y midpoint coordinate because all we have are the two endpoints. The two endpoints are 6 and 6. So I'm going to do 6 plus 6 over 2. It's 12 divided by 2 is 6. So the y midpoint is going to have to be 6. So F is equal to 4, 6. All right, and then GE bisects BC. So we know that E splits BC into two equal parts. Therefore, E must be the midpoint. So we have XM. I'm writing my formulas again. And my my x coordinates this time are 6 and 6. So I have x midpoint equals 6 plus 6 over 2. X midpoint equals 12 divided by 2 equals 6. Oh, I'm so sorry, this is a y. So my y midpoint, no, this is an x. Yes. Okay. Ugh. Okay. So back to work, back to what we were doing. So my y midpoint is going to be 6 and 2. So I have 6 plus 2 divided by 2. Y midpoint equals 6 plus 2 is 8, divided by 2 is 4. It's going to be 6, 4. So the coordinate of E is 6, 4. All right, so we answered the first part. Okay, so we answered part A. Part B is asking us to name the coordinate of G. So find out what G equals and explain how we calculated it. All right, well, in the problem it says that GE is a horizontal line segment, so this is a horizontal line segment. And then it says that GF is a vertical line segment. So there's a reason why the problem told us these pieces of information. It's because we need them in order to answer this part of the question. So let's see. If a line is parallel to the y-axis, that means that we can count in order to find its distance, right? This is a review of last week's lesson, okay? So from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, so the y-axis, the length of the length of FG takes up 2 units, right? Right here. So the length of FG takes up 2 units. So the length of FG must be 2. GE on the x-axis, GE is parallel to the x-axis, therefore we can just count. It takes up 2 units as well. Okay? So GE equals 2. Okay, now if we know that these are the points where G kind of reaches the axes. We know 1, 2, 3, 4. If we count over 4 and then we count up 4, we'll get to 4, 4, and that's where G is, right? We just kind of followed the distance and counted. So G has to equal 4, 4, which makes perfect sense because we know that this is 6 over. We know that GE takes up 2 squares, so it must go over to 4. Up here, we know that this is 6. GE goes up to 4, and we know that GF goes up to 4, and GF takes up 2 squares. So we know that G is 4, 4, and the reason why we know that is because we counted. Okay? So I'm going to try to clean up this diagram a bit. Okay, so now we are going to move on to part C. And that part says, describe what relationship, if any, exists between DG and GB. Okay, well, let's see where they are. DG is right here, and then GB is right here. Let's see. What possible relationships could we know? Well, we already know the midpoint of DG and GB, and that is G. So this question is probably asking us to find the distance of the 2 line segments. So let's find the distance of DG and GB and see what that gives us. So distance equals, always write out your formula first. Okay, so D is 2, 2, and G is 4, 4. And then over here, G is 4, 4, and B is 6, 6. Okay, so I'm just going to plug these numbers into the formula. I get distance equals the square root of x2 is 4 minus x1 is 2 squared plus y2 is 4 minus y1, which is 2 squared. I get distance equals the square root of 2 squared plus 2 squared. 2 squared is 4, so 4 plus 4 is 8. Distance equals the square root of 8. And now on the right-hand side, we have distance equals the square root of x2 is going to be 6 minus 4, x1 squared, plus y2 is 6 minus 4 squared. I get distance equals the square root of 2 squared plus 2 squared. 2 squared is 4 plus 4 is 8. Distance equals the square root of 8. So we know that DG and GB are congruent. And we're done.